In 2022, Gary was appointed a member and chair of the Council of the Alberta Order of Excellency.
The Alberta Order of Excellence was created to recognize Albertans who have done medicine and education and the arts and culture. It includes painters and poets and writers and physicians and researchers.
Good day. Welcome to our community program podcast hosted by Infinity Safety Awareness. We always bring the topics which are near and dear to the people of South Asian community to the Albertans. Before we go further, we would like to acknowledge that we are on a traditional territory of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Alberta. We recognize is a systematic racism does exist, but we also pledge for the better community based on the diversity, equity, and inclusion. Today, I have an Honorable May Mar with us. He is a president and CEO of Canada West Foundation. Gary has been accomplished and respected leader and experience in government and businesses and established expertise in the CWP policies area in natural resources, trade, investment, and human capital. He held several cabinet portfolios, which serving as a member of Alberta's Legislative Assembly, and was also official representative of the Province of Alberta at the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and later represented the province in Asia. In 2022, Gary was appointed a member and chair of the Council of the Alberta Order of Excellency and was also awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal for public service. Welcome, sir, and honor to speak to you. And Honorable Mar, may I have your permission to call you Gary
Yes,
for
Sonny,
the
I'd be
interview
happy if you do
purposes.
that. That would be perfectly fine.
Thank you, Gary. So tell us a little bit more about you, like your accomplishment and the public work before we come back to, and I ask you the questions related to the award, which is Excellence of Alberta Order.
Well, sorry, my background?
Yes, your experience as a political person, as a like being an ambassador to of Alberta, talking about Albertan economy, your experience.
I was first elected to the legislature in 1993. I was 30 years old at the time. I was appointed to cabinet 14 days after the election of 1993 and served in 6 different portfolios during my 13-year tenure in the legislature. I held portfolios like health and education, international and intergovernmental relations, community development, environment. It was an extraordinary time to be in politics under the leadership of Premier Ralph Klein. Following my time in the legislature, I was appointed by Premier Stelmach to be Alberta's representative at the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. And, some of your viewers might remember issues like BSC and the ban on Canadian cattle exports into the United States, our biggest marketplace. There were many issues to deal with. Of course, the Keystone XL pipeline was one that occupied a great deal of my time. And while in Washington, I spent a great deal of time with legislators, members of the Senate, of the people from the White House, the Environmental Protection Agency, members of Congress. It was an extraordinary opportunity to be exposed to all that goes on in the United States. And then following that, I was appointed to be Alberta's representative in Asia. The Alberta government has offices in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Seoul, Tokyo, Taipei, and now New Delhi as well, and Singapore. And so I was responsible for representing Alberta's interests in those marketplaces, marketplaces that are more important today than they were back then because of the expansion of trade between Alberta and China that really started over the last 10 years. And then, of course, the federal government now has an Indo-Pacific strategy, which looks at other parts of Southeast Asia, as important marketplaces for what it is that Alberta produces and sells. So it's now I'm presently the president and CEO of the Canada West Foundation, which is one of Canada's oldest public policy think tanks. And we do work on developing the best policies for things like trade, natural resources, human capital, a wide range of areas that we're interested in, all of which focus on the economic opportunities for the four Western provinces, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. And so it's a really great job for somebody like me, who has a background in politics and public policy, and now gives me the opportunity to expand even more based on experiences that I've had in the past. Back in 2022, Premier Kenney asked me if I would serve as the chair of the Alberta Order of Excellence, which is the main thing that we want to talk about today. The Alberta Order of Excellence has been in existence since the 1970s, and this is not a complete comparison, but it is the highest provincial award that can be conferred upon an Albertan, and it is similar in its character to the being made a member of the Order of Canada, but much more exclusive.
So Gary, I'm really honored to speak to you, and I'm so delighted you sharing your experience. And as you did mention on the Alberta Order of Excellence, and when we were talking a few minutes before, and then you did mention, and I will be asking you the questions about the Alberta Order of Excellence history, nomination, eligibility, and all those things step by step. So if you can give us a brief, like you did mention, is about only 240 people has been awarded this Alberta Order of Excellence. If you can tell us a little bit more about it, about the Order of Excellence, and then we will go to the other questions.
Sure. The Alberta Order of Excellence was created to recognize and give recognition to Albertans who have done extraordinary things that may have a provincial or a national or even an international impact. And if you look at our website, all you have to do is look up Alberta Order of Excellence, and you'll see the names that are listed there. And you'll find that they come from many, many different fields. They come from the fields of medicine and education and the arts and culture. It includes painters and poets and writers and physicians and researchers and people who have been in politics and individuals who have made contributions to public policy or agriculture. And they come from all over Alberta. And it is a particularly special recognition because, as you said, there's only 204 people that have been recognized. There are thousands and thousands and thousands who have been recognized with the Order of Canada. But when you consider that there's only 204 people out of a province of roughly 4.4 million, it is a very rare honor. And so, you'll recognize many of the names that are on the list of people who have been awarded the AOE, as we call it. There are some names you may not recognize, but then when you read what they've accomplished, you would be very, very impressed. So as an example, Dr. James Shapiro from the University of Alberta, created the Edmonton Protocol, which is a way of transplanting islet cells into patients who have diabetes and allows them to live without having to use insulin. And so this is a groundbreaking medical breakthrough that's recognized throughout the world as the Edmonton Protocol. That would be an example of somebody who has received the award that many people would recognize their names. And then there's others who have done phenomenal things in agricultural sciences and developed their protocols here in Alberta and have taken agricultural practices from Alberta and taught them in other parts of the world, and have had a tangible impact on helping, regions and countries help sustain themselves in terms of their agricultural output, so that they can be less reliant upon the importation of food. So you can see that, from accomplishments in sports, people like Becky Scott, an Olympian from Spruce Grove, to people who have been in the educational field. The former president of the University of Calgary, Elizabeth Cannon, was inducted last year. So it is, I would say, many people make Alberta a great place to live and to be proud of, but these are the very best of the very best of us.
So Gary, my next question is, if you can tell, because you're talking about like all the great people who has been awarded, or then, they have been given the award. What is a nomination process is? Because then leading to nomination process, because I did went through the website, and I was going through, especially when we come to like new immigrants or the South Asian community, or the people who the English is a second language, even though they are doing a great work, but put that thing in writing, right, is a challenge, because sometimes English is a scareness too, right? Is I'm writing the right thing, or is I'm explaining? So that my question is, how process work, and when you select, do you look the accomplishment like in a point wise? You need a paragraphs and paragraphs, because I think what my impression is, the person who is reading or selecting the nomination, or he is going through, or the person selecting committee is going through the readings also, right? So that I think would be a challenge, or how do you deal with it?
Well, so let me say this, the people who are on the council for the Alberta Order of Excellence Council, they take this job very seriously, and they look very much at the qualifications of the individual being nominated, not necessarily the quality of the writing of the person who's doing the nominating. So, we do have new Canadians that have been nominated. English isn't their first language, but the people that have nominated them have looked at their their accomplishments and what they've done to contribute to Alberta. That's what we really focus on. So even if somebody were to put a nomination in order, it has to be thoughtful. It has to be complete, but it doesn't have to be written in paragraph form. If it were written in point form, that would be fine. I would expect that if you were going to make, a serious nomination, you would get together with other people who could perhaps help complete or ensure that all of the accomplishments are listed about the individual, and that they are verifiable by some source. And so even if the nominator doesn't speak English as a first language, or write particularly well, that's not what we're judging the nominees on. We're not judging the quality of the writing of the nominator. We're judging the quality of the accomplishments of the person being nominated. And I would say this, I know that there are many new Canadians who have made great contributions to this province, but we don't see their names recognized in the nominations for the fear that you just outlined. And I say, put that fear behind you, work with some people that can put together, a credible and complete nomination package, and a number of people can work on it together. It doesn't have to be one person. And so, but we are seeking nominations that come from a broader group of Albertans than what we presently get. And that's the reason why I'm reaching out, and I'm really, really happy that I get to spend some time to talk about this with you, Sonny, because I do want people from, other parts of the world who have come to Alberta, who've done great things, to be nominated and perhaps even be recognized with an AOE.
Thank you. So, Gary, my next question is, you did touch the eligibility as a contribution to the community, contribution to the, you know, social structure, which could be environment, diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism, um, contribution to Alberta, Canada, to make this place a better for the coming generation. How you can apply, because I know everything is on a website. If you can give us a brief about it, what's the applying or nomination processes?
Right. So there's not many restrictions on nominations, but you cannot nominate yourself and you cannot be nominated by a member of your family. But apart from that, the qualifications are that you have to be a Canadian citizen to be nominated, and you have to reside in the province of Alberta, and you have to be available to attend the awards ceremony when it comes up. And we don't accept nominations of people who have already passed away. So it is a fairly easy process. And again, if people go to Alberta Order of Excellence on the website, the forms are pretty simple to download, and you can take your time to put together a group of people that can make sure that that the accomplishments of the individual that you want to nominate are complete. Now, there is a deadline for consideration for this year's nomination. This year's awards will take place in the fall of 2023. If you want somebody to be considered for the fall of 2023, that nomination has to be completed by the 15th of February, so just a couple of weeks from now. But if you don't make the February 15th deadline, we keep the nominations for a period of 3 years, and we'll consider them in the following 3 years, for consideration. So as you can imagine, though, we get hundreds of nominations, and each year we only select, I think this year it was 6 people, maybe it was 8 people. It is very, very, very small numbers. So out of hundreds, the committee that's made up of members of the council will take hundreds of names, whittle it down to perhaps 20, and then we go into a deep dive, a deep research into those 20, and try and come up with 6 or 8 names out of the 20. So it's not an easy process to go through, but it is a great process in the sense that I come to be aware of wonderful things that people are doing all over this province. And even if an individual doesn't, get awarded the Alberta Order of Excellence, to be nominated and to have your story told, it is a remarkable thing, and it makes me very, very proud to be an Albertan when I read about all the things that Albertans are doing to benefit their communities.
So, Gary, you did mention, you select about 20 or 25 people and then dive down and select 6 to 8 people. So, say people have nominated, do they get recognition also, or they get invited to the ceremony, or the only people who get the award get invited?
Only the people who are awarded get invited, but it's actually a really good question as to whether or not we need to create some other kind of recognition for those that are nominated, but not at the caliber of an AOE award. There are other provincial recognitions, volunteer medals and that sort of thing. And we, from time to time, when we look at these things, we think, okay, perhaps this person should be considered for another type of recognition. This year, of course, there was the Queen's Platinum Jubilee medals, or I should say in 2022, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee medals, permitted the province to recognize, up to 7,000 Albertans. So many of those people we took from the lists of the Alberta Order of Excellence nominees, and we recognized them with the Queen's Platinum Jubilee medal. So that did happen, and it was a wonderful way to recognize many of the nominees who did not win an Alberta Order of Excellence. But there are other recognitions that we confer upon individuals. So, the short answer to your question is that only people who are awarded the AOE are brought to the presentation ceremonies.
I just want to clarify one thing because I got confused honestly too. With your so once if say hypothetically person is not nominated for the AOE and the application sits with you for 3 years, they do not have to reapply or have not
Correct.
re-nominated. But in the same token, when the other awards comes, you basically go through that the database you have. You don't have to re-nominate a person or a volunteer. Is that correct? Or
You understand it correct, Sunil. Yes.
so as we are running, like you are busy, and thank you for taking your time and talking to us and giving us a selection process, details on selection process, how to apply, eligibility, nomination process, how long you keep the file. I really appreciate your time. In the last, what message or encouragement you would like to give to the community or Albertans to participate?
Well, the final message is I'll end the way that I started, which is to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the AOE with a community that doesn't know enough about it. And again, I know of individuals that have worked, in the South Asian community that have brought, great esteem to Alberta. And so I am encouraging your listeners, your viewers, to think of the very best of the South Asian community that have made meaningful contributions to Alberta and be involved in the nomination process so that there can be recognition for the great work that is being done from people from this community.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for taking a time. You are watching our community podcast hosted by Infinity Safety Awareness. I'm your host, Sonal Phul. To encourage us, please like and subscribe us by clicking on bell icon. Thank you. Stay blessed. Stay safe.